Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you all.
Yeah, so good to see everybody.
So, how many of you know, give us a heart or whatever, how many of you know that Alex and I are like besties? Like, if I could live next door to Alex, I would probably be in his yard every single day, like high-fiving and joking and whatever.
I'd probably be in her yard often too. Our dogs would probably be in each other's yards.
Yes. Yes. Eddie's asking you how the Pine wine was, and I just read that post. Your post today was really, really gut punching. Like, ooh, yeah, I felt that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think, I mean, I don't drink very often. So the pie, Dutch apple pie, delightful, amazing. Having wine was a little bit of a step outside my comfort zone because I just don't drink anymore. But that night I was feeling crazy, had a glass or three. Because once I start, the fun don't stop, even if I'm alone.
And you're in another country, and you are an American in another country.
Yeah, and I just had to, keep up the expectations, I guess. Plus, I was just surrounded by a whole heck of a lot of people having a whole heck of a lot of emotions.
Yes.
And so I was just drowning myself in the wine, the wine, and I had the most delightful cottage pie, and because it was so get this, like I go to the Netherlands, right? I go to a British style pub in the Netherlands. Because one of the days I went to an Indian place in the Netherlands, and then I went to an American style place in the Netherlands for lunch. It was just fun to kind of get their take on some of these things. I suppose it's like getting Mexican food in the U.S. or something. Their take on American was really great. So I got cottage pie. That was so good. But the Dutch apple pie was just phenomenal.
I'll have you know that one of my friends who is from the Netherlands just joined. So you're not alone in talking about the Netherlands.
I did not, Eddie.
We did not smoke cannabis.
Although I was there for 420, and I will tell you that it smelled like 420 everywhere.
I'm glad I wasn't there then.
Probably, especially for your...
Yes, I'm allergic to cannabis, and when I smell it in my car because the person in front of me is driving and smoking, I have to shut up all the windows and put the recircular air on the car so that I don't get all giddy and woozy and crazy, because cannabis makes me crazy. It's not pretty. So, when Minnesotans go overseas and people ask, "Are you American?" Do you know what their response is nowadays?
What is it?
No, I'm not an American. I'm a Minnesotan.
Yeah, that doesn't work for I'm a Utah, and they're just like, what?
No, exactly.
I tried that. Yeah. I think I remember you saying that. So I was just like, I'm a Utah, and they're just like, what's that?
Doesn't work.
Utah doesn't have the same staying power, I guess.
Oh, hi, Barbara Severson. So let's talk about what our subject is. Aliveness and activism.
Oh, yes, let's do it.
You told me something today that I've always known you're a social and political scientist, but I did not know that your research background is in activism. So can you tell me more?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
I think that one of the most interesting things of how, everybody generally for their PhD have to draw from something draws you to that. Mine was an experience back, remember the Occupy movement, right? I hate to say way back when, but those are quite a while back.
When were they? What year was that?
Gosh, I want to say 2009, 2010.
I want 8 or 9.
Now I'm just with the brain injury, I'm just like the memory is gone. What Occupy movements? We're just gonna look. 2011.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, that sounds right. 2011. So I was I was attending them, and I didn't know much. Like I knew enough about them, but I kind of knew the underlying theoretical component of the Occupy movement. But I wasn't bought in per se. Like I wasn't like
Mhm.
ideologically there. And I wasn't like rooted in anything there. And I was I was taken over. Like, you know, when people have like a major spiritual experience and you're just like, they are
That's
on,
aliveness,
yes, like,
right?
and they're like on the floor, like having this like thing. And so I was like, all of a sudden, by the end of the day, I was in the streets chanting this song I had never heard in my life, and I somehow knew the words. And it was wild to me. I was like, "What is going on?"
You were
And
possessed.
I was possessed by this movement, and I was I spent a week in that movement, and I
Mm.
wanted to know why. I wanted to
Yeah.
know why. I had no background, I had no understanding of this movement, and what motivated my PhD studies is I wanted to know why I was so taken over and so
Mm.
possessed and so aligned from an identity level to um, to this experience.
Wow. It is. It's like you were completely consumed.
Mhm.
And that is aliveness, but then was it contagious? Was there something neurologically happening? Was there something hormonally happening?
Well,
What did your research tell you?
Well, I think it gets into, I mean, there's so many different explanations for it. So it just depends on where you want to go with it. But on an individual level, it becomes this kind of powerful identity of like being part of something larger that people almost crave. Sometimes
Mhm.
it becomes the motivating reason why people join religion and
So it's
why they.
belongingness.
Mhm. Because
Yeah.
that's you have this. I mean, the world is lonely,
Mhm.
right? And so if you can join something larger than you, and contribute to something larger than you that aligns also with something that you want to accomplish in the world, it aligns with your values, it aligns with kind of this larger piece of your identity that you haven't been able to nail down in your current life, and it's almost like resonating, echoing um,
Mm.
with you, you all of a sudden give so much more energy to it. It pulls it out of you because it's energizing. Um, and it just builds upon all of these other people and kind of waterfalls.
So it is contagious, but in your case, like you went there not really connected to the movement, and all of a sudden you are in it and you are consumed by it and you feel more alive than ever. Was that aliveness about belongingness for you, or was that aliveness about something else too?
I think it was all of the above. Once I really understood what the Occupy movement was, it hit something. I'm a millennial, so like there's there's kind of, I think, some foundational components in me that are about equity, about that are about like sticking it to the man, right? Like that are about like being born into a specific generational component there, about the socioeconomic circumstances that I had joined. I mean, all of those different things that, you know, every generational story has, right? Millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, Gen Zers, they all have that generational story just played out differently. So every
Mhm.
generation is actually very similar. They just have a different generational story. It played out differently for
Right.
them. But every generation actually has has that kind of hero's journey, so to speak. They
Right.
all hit that little dour, terrible likeness, and that like deep dark pit that they all have to kind of climb their way out of. It's very unfortunate, but like if you look at Time magazine, that's a very fascinating thing you actually find in Time magazine. Every generation has this like deep dark pit that they have to climb out of, and it's like Time magazine over time, like you have these like they're so graphic, like they take such great pictures that like the front page of the magazine is just a fascinating anthology to look at that through.
Right.
So I think as a millennial, like I was like feeling some of my own generational story pulling at me in the Occupy movement, on student loans, on cost of food already, on just all of these inequities that I was feeling, on, you know, the fact that maybe I'm never going to afford a house, maybe I'm never going to do, like all of these things that just felt fundamentally unfair. And then taxes, which at that point I was still young enough to not have to pay taxes the same way that everybody else was, but damn it, taxes felt terrible. Right? Taxes were paying for all these things that I didn't want to pay for. I mean, still to this day, taxes are paying for war, and taxes are paying for all these things that I, you know, no. But like,
I don't want my money going there. Doing taxes this year was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Really hard for me because I didn't want to put my money in that.
No, it's once you start mapping out where your taxes are going, you're just like, you know, I actually I don't mind paying taxes if they really paid for causes I support. It's imagine that. So I think that's where, but then there's the belonging thing, right? I belong to a lonely generation, and Gen Z has it worse, right? I still do a lot of research with Gen Z, and they are seeking so much community. They are seeking so much belongingness because they just feel so isolated. And so when they go to these more communal events, I mean, no wonder why you see such a resurgence in religion, especially among Gen Z men. Is it religion, or is it just simply that they're finding a place to go where they can connect with people? There's such an interesting selection bias there.
So what do you see through this poli-sci sociological lens of yours about the activism going on now? Is it also about belongingness?
Yes and no. I mean, I think we are, because, you know, ask me 2 years ago if boycotts worked, and I would tell you that structurally boycotts wouldn't work. Almost all the evidence, you know, to date would say that boycotts don't work. And then you look at Target and there's this profound effect of a boycott that works pretty well. So, I mean, just like voting for so many years, voting has actually been pretty predictable through polling. And then in the past 3 to 4 presidential elections, voting has been very hard to predict through polling. And so I think belonging has always been a fairly strong argument for why people participate in collective action. But also there's this other problem called the free rider problem, which has always been pretty predictive of why people don't participate. Right? If somebody was also willing to do that effort on behalf of you, why would you go and do the effort? And so you have this really interesting thing is you have so many people activated to do these things. I don't know if belonging is the reason why you have so many people going out to do all this activism.
I would say from my own experience, it wasn't about belonging for me. And I've been saying this all along. I'm an accidental activist. I've never been activism minded until the last 4 months. And when ICE came into my backyard, all of a sudden I was activated, heavily activated. And belongingness was a side effect that came with it. Like I didn't realize, and what I'm finding interviewing all these women for the Women Project book, they're telling me the same thing. Like, they got activated because something happened that made them so enraged that they couldn't not act. And so then they started acting, and in that acting, they found like-minded community. And that like-minded community bonded so strongly and so fast. And also what happened is they were recognizing that their own prior bonds were, I can picture it. They were like decaying. And so the activism brought the belongingness in really, really strong bonds. And what they're telling me, and I'm having the same experience in my life, is that other friends that I used to see as my best friends, those relationships are decaying as these relationships are showing me that it's so much stronger. And I feel more bonded and more belonging than I ever have in my life. And it's almost like I realized that I was settling in prior relationships, and now I don't have to settle anymore. And it's been this gradual process, because I remember like coming to Substack and meeting a whole new community of people on Substack. And that was sort of an activating process for me, where I got into Substack because I needed some place to put my writing that wasn't so angry like Twitter and Facebook. And when I did, I found the belonging. Like, I met you, and all of a sudden I didn't have to work for a relationship. It was just easy. And the same thing is happening with my friendships that I'm developing because of the activism of what's going on in the world now. And so I'm curious about your scientific perspective, but also your experience.
I think that's just so core to just relationship, just in general. There's a variety of reasons why people are brought together. I just love this idea that people found power and were called to activism, right? Like that, like, I think that's where you have this, people were able to override the free rider problem, override this legitimate reason not to spend energy on activism.
We are so emotionally charged that we can't not do something.
Right.
That's what's happening to us.
And it's not just so that we can spend time with others, it's to legitimately create outcome, create change. And then through creating change, we build strong bonds with each other. And through these strong bonds, we create lasting relationship. And I think that's how you deepen community, right? When you start to look at research and just experience, even my personal experience with community, that is built on foundational relationship. If you build community without building foundational relationship, well, there is none.
Which is what my experience of church was as a child. And every time I tried to go to a church, it didn't have that foundational, deep bonding connection. It was just, we have this little thing kind of sort of in common. But here, it's really driven by emotion. Like, whatever is happening in the world around us is, and to use your word, because your post today was so great as it described activation. Like, there are so many things happening outside ourselves that are injecting us with emotion that it's charging inside of us that this is so alive, to use another one of your words, that aliveness. It's so alive in us. We need something to put that energy into. And we want to put that energy into something that has power and purpose and passion and direction and force. And in that, it's almost creating these synapses of relationship. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's like these relationships were there just wanting to be cultivated. And as soon as that activation happened, they just bonded. I'm getting all these images of like brain waves, like brain neurons connecting and mycelial networks growing. But you need that activation to create that network connection to happen.
And
wow.
Activation in the wrong moment or between the wrong things, creates, no connection, right?
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting kind of counter to that, right? I mean, I think what was so interesting, writing is very integrative for me. It's why I started really writing seriously. Is that for me, when I was starting this post on the airplane ride back from Amsterdam, which is quite a ride, 10 hours. I think some of the core lines that I wrote was, this was all about to participate without being participative, to be present without giving all of your presence. That's not necessarily to say that we shouldn't activate. It's to be selective about when we activate. That I think that is restorative of the power that we all have of things do deserve our activation. The world is trying to activate us all the time, but it is within our power to choose when we activate and when we don't activate. And I think when we do choose to activate, that is where there's more power versus when we choose not to activate. I think that is actually just as powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in that pub, if you haven't read Alex's post, it's brilliant. It went up today. Go to Department of Aliveness and read that. But he describes sitting in an Amsterdam pub and there's too many tables for not enough space. And every table has a different emotion that wants to activate him. And he chooses consciously not to get pulled into that energy. And therefore it was beautiful, Alex. You were like containing your energy so that you could direct it where you wanted it to go and channel it in a more effective way and being just as powerful. I'm not going to give you my energy. I'm going to hold it from you so that I can use it and cultivate it further in another way. And I think that's so profound, is like having that power to choose. I'm putting my energy here and not there. And in holding it back, it almost gives it more chance to germinate so that it can grow even bigger where you choose to have the right synapses and connections forged. Thank you, Eddie. He put it in the chat for us.
Thank you, Eddie.
Our little assistant.
I think what I loved about that is that I actually felt more alive because I had more control over my own power, right? Like that, like I felt more in control than I ever had because I actually was able to navigate my own authority, my own activation. People were really trying to force me out of it. And I had moments where I almost did,
Yeah.
And I was like, no, dang it.
It's that beauty, though, of you can't control what's happening outside yourself. And that's the activation. The activation is all this stuff happening outside. And right now, so much of the world, so many of us feel like there's so much going on that is completely out of our control. And the activation is trying to get us to do something about that. But we know on some level, like internally, we can't change how someone else feels. We can't change what someone else is going to do. We can't force our will on someone else. But that moment, that brief psychological, emotional, spiritual moment of deciding that you can't control me either. And choosing not to surrender your control to someone else's desire to pull you into it. And that moment is just so magical. And I think that's what I've been seeing in all the activist movements here in Minnesota, is that there are hundreds of thousands of people gathering to say, you can't control us. And the bully keeps coming at us in all different directions. And we keep saying, you can't control how we are. And what we're doing in that is we're choosing to funnel, once we're activated, we're funneling that energy inside ourselves to each other rather than to these outside sources.
I think that's really profound. And what that really, like, the word that just keeps coming up for me as I listen to you is the word finite.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Tell me more.
Is just like, we have a finite amount of energy that we can spend on any given thing. And so we can have so much resolve, but if we spend that finite energy in one place, there's nothing else, there's no other energy to spend. And so we have to be selective in our resistance. We have to be selective in our activism. We cannot activate every day, all day. You will burn out.
Which we're seeing a lot of that. And it's also not just activate every day, all day, but there's a common phrase here in Minnesota, pick your lane. Don't try to do every form of activism out there. If you're protesting and doing mutual aid and writing and calling all your elected officials and you're going to burn out really fast. So you've got to find the lane that feeds you as much as it directs your energy, where we choose something. Like for me, there's tons of outdoor events going on today in Minnesota. I could go to 50 different things today if I wanted to, because today is May Day and all these things have been percolating and there's always a ton of things. But I know that if I go to those and spend my time in a crowd, I'm going to be finitely draining that gas tank of energy. So I chose to sit at home on Zoom with you because you're my bestie, and this kind of conversation is going to fuel me as much as it drives that energy. So right now it's almost the opposite of finite. It's like, as much as I'm pouring energy into this, I'm receiving it as well. And that's part of the pick your lane. Pick the lane of activism that makes you feel most alive and stick with that.
And not everything is going to, like, I think the other thing that I've learned is that some things are going to drain you, and that is okay. Just don't do those all the time.
And don't do it a lot.
And don't do it a lot. Right. And as Eddie said, right, like, there's things that also align in the chat with maybe things that you're good at. And I think that's, if you're an artist, do posters, a writer, write posters. I mean, there's so many great ideas. I mean, I think what I learned from that Occupy experience too was that I am not good in crowds. I get way over activated in a variety of ways.
Just like you do in a small restaurant with 8 tables.
And so I can get very overwhelmed nowadays. And so my type of activism is a little bit quieter now. And that's okay now too, right? Like, there's other things that you can do to support the causes that you care about. And that doesn't make you less than, right? That makes you just as important, just as loud. And I think that's important.
Yeah. I still want to pick your social science brain, like what you've learned since the Occupy movement and now. What else is that brain researching right now in terms of what's going on in the world?
Well, that brain is always researching.
I know.
I should say my brain. I shouldn't speak about it as it's somebody else's. I think it is mine.
I like your brain.
It is my thing. It is my brain. I've been looking a lot at how people just relate to aliveness just in general. And I've been looking at differences between presence and aliveness and how people engage with both. So that's been an interesting difference. I've been looking at how people have been engaging in politics a little bit more, a little less than usual. I've been really engaged with religion and politics again. The religious question always fascinates me. I mean, I have my share of religious trauma from my 17-year-old.
Don't we all? But yours is more.
No, I think I'm a firm believer that we're all equal in terms of how we navigate our religious trauma. But
I definitely think that's a theme in the world right now, is religious trauma. Like, that's coming up. Well, we've seen it in our creator retreat. There's so much of it. And I wonder if that's an undertone that is happening, and the trauma is occurring right now as well, and how that plays into all that's going on. Like, there's a whole bunch of people recognizing, I have religious trauma from my childhood that I didn't know that's what it was, or it's coming to the surface because right now there is so much religious trauma happening in real time. And is that creating a whole bubble for a whole new spiritual awareness in the world? Like, is that bubble going to burst pretty soon?
I mean, I think that's very possible. I think, again, like there's something in political science, that talks about associational life. And this goes around belonging. I can't escape belonging. Apparently, I'm always just going to talk about it. But I think as every generation has gone by, our associational life, or how we get together, has disappeared. So think back, 20 years ago, and the PTA was so much more popular. You would have work associations that were so much more powerful and so much more of a fixture in your life. There were so many different associations that people participated in to a greater degree, and that you would truly join in your daily life to a greater degree. They mattered. And these did a lot of things in the community, locally and at large. But one of the greatest things that they did is they kind of consolidated voice. They would advocate for people at large in a larger degree too. So people felt heard a lot more. And so it gave people a place to be, and people felt heard. And ultimately, people felt a little bit more satisfied that their voice was being heard, and that their needs were being met. Fast forward to now, where is all of that?
Yeah.
It's nowhere.
Did that evaporate with COVID, or was it more than that?
Oh, it started a long time ago. There's a lot of sociological and anthropological research that starts. There's a really, I've forgotten the name, but there's a really great paper on the disappearance of the front porch. And how we started retreating backwards into our backyards, and how that began this great trend of privacy in life, and how we started retreating from our communities. And as that,
the privacy fences.
Yes. And so we began to retreat from all of our thank you, Eddie. You're so kind to me.
The front porch versus backyard. I'm treating your brain back to what you were thinking.
I appreciate that. My brain is not working as well today. But where we have kind of retreated from all of these associational mechanisms. And that was one of those interesting kind of levers, right? Where the front yard to backyard transition was so very visible. Fast forward, where are all these other places? You see Americans retreat from religion. You see them retreat from all these other workplace associations. You see them retreat from all these other places. So what is there for us now?
And so that is where people are now craving, like the activism and the aliveness, people are craving intimacy. Because even if there are groups and associations, they're not intimate. Like what I've seen so much, like as you're talking about that, so many of the churches went from small community churches to these mega churches. And in these mega churches, it's hard to have that level of intimacy. It's thousands and thousands of people. And so you're just a face among the crowd rather than a space where you're really feeling heard and being seen and being held and being nurtured, which I suppose is part of what you and I do together. Is we run this creator retreat, and the whole premise of that was, here we are, creators on Substack, and we're doing it alone, and we shouldn't be doing it alone. We need to belong. We need to feel a sense of intimacy, feel a sense of connection where we can be heard and seen rather than out in the void of thousands on the World Wide Web where we're holding each other in small space. And that sense of belonging is part of the feeling alive. Yeah.
And so I think, the proliferation of social media was a big problem. I think a lot of people felt like it was going to be a solution, and yet it ended up being more isolating. Did we still find groups of people? Yes. But has it replaced associational life or augmented it in a meaningful way? Probably not. I think it's still trended us and taken us away from what we used to have. In many cases, not to jump too far, but the Gutenberg press was something that had a similar effect to social media in that it hyper localized identity and forced people to kind of look outward from their community. Right. So it all of a sudden it gave being, a Minnesotan a different identity because you could connect with other places in a different way. Right. Your township was a much larger place. But now all of a sudden you could see these newspapers. You could literally get the New York Times printed,
right,
in a way that you couldn't before. And so all of a sudden you could identify with people in a way that you couldn't before. And that created identity crises in ways, because all of a sudden women's issues all of a sudden went from a township issue to a national issue, to a global issue.
Global. The Me Too and Epstein files and Roe v. Wade. It's really become global in the last 6 years.
Yeah, and that was a social media just hyper localizes it even more. Right. Yeah. Because you can identify from literally one person in this one little tiny space that has a super compelling story and experience and everything, and see it in such utter graphic nature. Think about what you went through with ICE, all of that. The people that had similar experiences with their governments in other countries could literally watch that and relate to it in graphic detail because of the way that multimedia works. That is the unfortunate power of social media and the fortunate power of social media. Both.
Right.
That's that scaling of hyper identity.
Yeah. I don't know why this came up as you were talking about all that. I was thinking about something that happened in my neighborhood this week that never would have happened a year ago. And how our community, just these 5 little houses on my street, has changed because it's become more front porch because of what's happened with ICE. And so here's the example. On Sunday night, I was in Colorado at a wedding with my husband, and we're in the hotel room that night, and I get someone comes up to my front porch, and I have a Ring camera, so it goes off on my phone, and I look at it, and it's a cop in my front porch. And I've got a house sitter who's in the house, but I know she's asleep. And it's an hour later there than it is here in Minnesota than it was where we were in Colorado. And so I didn't want to wake her up. I didn't want the cop to wake her up. So I quickly went on the Ring camera and I spoke to the cop. And he tells me, do you know who owns this? Do you own this silver Saturn parked in front of your street, in front of your house? And I'm like, no, I don't know. This freaks me out, you know? I'm kind of like, oh no, what is this? And he just said, I'm St. Paul Police. I'm just checking out this vehicle. It's not yours. So that's all I needed. And he leaves. And he's gone. I don't have any more information. So immediately, and this is what's different. Last year, I wouldn't have done this, but immediately I get on text and I text all my neighbors, the 5 houses that I know. And I'm like, do you know about this car? And one of them's like, yeah, it drove up between 4 and 5 o'clock or 5 and 6 o'clock. And another one's like, I see it. And its front end is all beat up. And I'm like, did any cops come ask you about what was going on? We had this big conversation among us and my husband's on the phone, so I'm not sharing it with him, but that all happened. And then I called the non-emergency police and got a little bit more information. They called me back and they said, well, the car was involved in a hit and run. It hit a car on a block away, a parked car a block away. And we were just trying to figure out who owns it so we can connect them with the car that it damaged. And so that happened on Sunday. And the cops told me, if it's still there when you get home from your trip, call us and we'll mark it and we'll have it towed away. So I get back on Monday night and it's still here. Tuesday morning, it's still here. So Tuesday afternoon, I call the non-emergency police and they say, yeah, we'll mark it, we'll tag it, and then we'll tow it away. And Wednesday afternoon, my neighbors start texting me. I called the non-emergency police too. Next thing I know, yesterday, they tow it away, but it wasn't the police. It was the actual people had it towed away. And immediately the phone lights up and all the neighbors are texting each other. Turns out all 5 of us had called the non-emergency police and reported this abandoned vehicle. And we were all watching, like, what's going on our street. And the text thread turned into, I'm so glad we watch out for each other. I'm so glad we're connecting with each other. We all know what's going on our street. That wouldn't have happened a year ago. And the intimacy and the connection, and it's not like we're having each other over for dinner and we're talking to each other all the time, but we do know what's happening on our street. And we know that if a package is delivered, we can call each other to go put it in someone's porch so it's not going to be pirated and things like that. And that's a different level of belongingness. Like, we belong in this neighborhood, even though 2 doors down, he voted for Trump. Between me and him is the rainbow flag LGBTQ house that has all the things. And it's a totally diverse neighborhood of different cultures and different values and different lifestyles. Yet when a car shows up, we're going to take care of each other. When a cop shows up, we're going to be like, what's going on?
I mean, that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think the whole idea that partisan politics should interfere with relationship building is interesting. I think that I understand why, but it was an interesting thing, because even when you talk with others just in Europe, for example, like, partisan identity doesn't necessarily get in the way of relationship building or people's relationships. And we just take it so personal here in the US, and that has created a lot of problems in our relationship building, and to the point that we cannot have a civil conversation about politics.
Right.
And that has created a lot of problems in our political sphere, because now we can't actually talk about the things that matter. We can't even have simple conversations about taxation. We can't have simple converse, like, you know, because we love to get distracted on a lot of like very partisan topics that are, don't get me wrong, are important. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about all of these other topics, but they're like 90% of topics that actually affect true day-to-day like lives, and deserve to also be talked about. People can't even get to in conversations because like there's like 4 hot button like issues that will come up in everybody's conversations, and that will get people's tempers flared up so badly that you can't even have a constructive policy conversation on anything else. And you know, it's so really fascinating. You start talking to people, like really talking to people. And I have a lot of political conversations with people because I can literally just talk to people about it. And most people fall into like the middle. Most people are like randomly not partisan about most of their policy positions, and they just don't know
That's
it.
so refreshing.
Well, they just don't know it, right? Like that's the thing, is that, you know, everybody has a pretty warped understanding of what is Republican and what is Democrat and what is conservative and what is liberal. And that's the interesting thing, is when, like, you know, a lot of Republicans right now are not actually conservatives, and a lot of Democrats right now aren't true liberals. So then you have this partisan, like ideological mismatch too that's happening.
Right.
So everything is like completely off on the ideological party atmosphere. So that everybody's feeling like, well, the parties don't represent me. Well, that's probably true, because ideologically you're somewhere different than the parties are. So, you know, there's a whole set of things that people just, you know, your reality is not matching the party system. Well, that's probably true. It's because ideologically you're falling in one place and the parties are falling in a different place, and nothing has caught up to match where everything is.
And then you end up not feeling like you belong because you're not matching.
Hard to feel like you belong, especially when no one can talk about it, because everybody is just so burned out and like overly activated, because we're activating about everything. And that's very understandable. And so we just can't talk constructively about the policy things that matter.
Which brings us back to your post of today. And this is opportunities to teach us how to be activated and not react. To feel the activation and choose to channel it in a direction rather than immediately respond in a way that you're spilling the energy rather than funneling it in a direction that's productive, functional.
And like people are just going to, I mean, it was a fascinating thing because people are just going to have their opinions. And like, I'm an opinionated guy. Holy crap. I mean, I am a freaking political scientist like that. Like I can have some opinions. And you know, practicing holding my tongue and just listening and nodding and not listening and eavesdropping. Like with my judgmental like glass of wine. Like it's
or three
with a book. I mean, you know, it was fun. It was an interesting practice to step back. We have forgotten the art of listening. We have all, it doesn't matter what party, it doesn't matter what anything. There is an aliveness of listening. There is an aliveness of actually reclaiming our own control of activation and not letting people trigger it.
You've rendered me speechless, Alex.
That's rare.
Yes, it is rare. We usually have a lot to say. But it's been a while since you and I have had a really deep intellectual conversation like this, and I'm really enjoying it.
Same.
So, activation, aliveness, activism, all the stuff. Eddie is like our little assistant. Thank you.
Eddie is just on this. Thank you, Eddie.
So we got 46 of you in here, and you guys have been listening to us for 50 minutes. Do you guys have any questions or any thoughts you want us to talk about? We're getting lots of hearts. That's the fun part.
Or we can just giggle fest with you all. I'm always into that. Like, we can do some ums. We can do some, like,
I do want to, I'm going to out myself here, and I want to talk a little bit about what's coming next for us. And I hinted at this with you this morning, so I'll talk a bit about what's coming next for me. But what's coming next for you, Alex, and the Department of Aliveness? What do you got brewing inside you?
What do I have brewing? Should we
Eddie's asking, what makes you feel most alive? So what is it about the Department of Aliveness that is you're going to activate next to make you feel alive in your Substack?
Substack is just fun for me because writing is an integrative exercise. I've been, I do it for me first, which is so selfish, but I do it for me first and then hope that other people enjoy it. Right. Like that's
why it works for you.
I think what's next is, I really want to, I sent out a call for collaborations a few months ago. What makes me come alive is collaborating. I really enjoy collaborating. I had a few things just come up that really kind of stopped me from finishing some of those out. So I'm going to really try to return back to some of those and finish those out and get those out. Because some people really got into that, so I really want to finish those out. Really pay a service to those that put in their effort. I really want to thank them for that and honor that, honor their effort. Like that really meant a lot to me. So I want to finish those. And if you have like a collaboration idea, like I'm so open to that after I finish the ones that I have on my to-do list. And then
to just give a little tip about that, Alex and I are here today because of one tiny little collaboration 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
we have fun collaborating.
I put out a call for collaboration. Alex answered, and all of a sudden now we're running a year-long program together for the second year and doing lives and meeting once a week and
be careful what you ask for. Yeah, be careful what you ask for. You might be stuck with me.
I am stuck with you, and I will keep that. So anyway, collaborations are the way to go. I'm a big fan.
They're energizing.
So, anything else? Yeah.
I think I'm about to relaunch a component of my paid tier, and get that out the door. I'm really excited about it. And I am going to keep that a little under wraps until it's fully launching, but just know that I've done some market research on it. I've talked to some people that are on my paid tier and some people that aren't, and people are really excited about what's coming. So I'm excited too. So that's
what's next. A new layer. Well, this is the first time I'm saying this publicly. I spit it out to Alex this morning, and it actually just started formulating in my brain 2 days ago. But I really loved what you said this morning, Alex, to me, is that this is what I'm really good at. And that is creating a sacred, safe container space for people to feel like they belong in a way that they need as they're going towards something together. And so that started with the Creator Retreat, which Alex and I do together. We're year 2 in. That's a 10-month program. It expanded. I offer the Abundant Money Mindset with Axel. I always have a hard time with your words, Alex and Axel, my 2 partners. But now I'm going to do one solo, and I can't say solo because it's going to end up being all the people in the program, I'm going to offer a Fierce Love cohort. And so how to hold each other in community, in a small, sacred space, spiritual community, as we gear up towards the midterm elections. It'll be a 5-month, every other week. Let's meet together, love on each other, support each other, and learn how to be activated and not react. How to do exactly what Alex was talking about in his post, how to sit in the room with all these voices and all these things we cannot control, and how to choose to funnel our energy in the right direction and channel it in a way that that passion and that power and that really has the best productivity. So I will be putting that out in the next week or two, starting to call for applications for that small group program. So if you're interested in that, keep watching Fierce Love.
And you should be interested in that. Teri and I have talked about some of her plans, and I can give that a +1, +2, +200 to why you would want to do that with her. So Teri's amazing. Yeah. I can only speak lovely things.
Same thing about you, Alex. I don't think you and I have ever had a disagreement. There are a lot of times where I look at you and I'm like, I don't know why you're suggesting that to me. Please convince me. And 2 sentences in, he's convinced me when I'm resistant to something. And
I have never disagreed with Teri.
Never.
But we have had moments where it's just like,
what is he thinking? And you ask me, what am I thinking? And then we find out pretty quickly that we're on the same page.
That's weird. There must be a reason why she's saying that to me. I'm just going to let her finish that thought.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on the hour, and Alex and I could sit and talk for days. We have, but we don't want to do that today and use up any more of the Substack Live world. So I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Eddie. Thanks for being our producer.
Such a great producer. Thank you, Eddie.
He is the AV guy. I missed this comment. For those of you who follow the news and are slowly losing ourselves, there is a whole swath who are not really MAGA but don't pay any attention to the world outside. How to get through to the Temu crowd? That's an interesting question. I think Alex was talking about that. Like, most people are in the middle. They just don't know they're in the middle. And it's being paused enough to recognize that and then have the conversations from that place. And that's part of what I want to explore in the Fierce Love cohort. So we'll get there. I really believe we will.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. It was so great to be here with you. You
too. We will post this on our Substack so you can tell people to go see it because they missed it or rewatch it. So, thank you. Love you, Alex.
Love you, Teri Lee.